Got it.
It's episode 9.
All right, episode number. Did you say 9? 8.
No, it's 8.
8. 8.
What are numbers anyway? Number 8.
Number 8. So we are going to talk about trust the niggle. What is the niggling feeling trying to tell you? We thought that's a pretty fun thing to talk about with you guys. So join us as we dive into what's the niggle? How do you know it's a niggle? What do you do about it? How do you trust it?
Shiggle my niggle.
And remember, if you like what we're putting down, give the video a like, hit that old notification bell so you don't miss a drop, and so that YouTube knows we're cool and will show us to the people we need to meet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I just pulled one. I pulled another card.
Okay.
And this one, it says karmic relationships, Orion energy, polarity, soul growth, and conflict. And I thought, ooh, that kind of
That's a cool
back to what we were thinking about talking about earlier when we were talking about relationships. Karmic relationships. That's
You got to trust the niggle with relationships as well.
Right?
You do have to trust the niggle with virtually everything. Relationships, health, jobs, that hard conversation you want to have, but you don't, but you know you should, and you follow the niggle. Because you know what I like to believe is that when we don't listen to the whisper or the niggle, that's when crap really hits the fan.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's kind of like
go ahead.
It's kind of like that saying of if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll be forced to make time for your illness, right? And it's sometimes having that little, I should go for the walk. I should do the gardening. I should be eating healthy. I should exercise. I should. Niggle, 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 niggle. You choose not to, and what happens? Oh, okay, all of a sudden we've got the diabetes happening, or we've got the heart disease happening, or you got the hypertension happening, or you've got the depression, anxiety happening, right? Like things will start to happen if you don't listen and make time. So that's one example. The one that I know has come up for me, health stuff. We've been having this conversation all morning. Nothing scary, things I can take control of because I listened to the niggle and I got pointed in the right direction of information. I can now take full control of my health and get myself vibrating really, really high. So where have you ladies had the niggle come in? Maybe you've ignored it. Maybe you've honored it. Maybe great things have come out of it.
Totally. Well, a game changer for me is kind of along with like trusting the niggle or knowing the niggle and feeling the niggle is the find your sacred yes, like not doing things because they logically fit, or I can make it work, or I can get there on time, or I can squeeze this in here and become this to create this. Nah. Once I put all that down and started going for my sacred yes and everything from what I'm going to wear in the morning, what I'm going to eat, to how I'm going to get somewhere, to when I'm going to do this thing, to what project I'm going to work on right now. When I do that, everything just starts to come into alignment. And what I was going to say there was like the universe is always conspiring. Like your higher self, your team, your physical body, and the universe are all conspiring for you to create whatever it is you want to create, for you to live out the lessons, for you to live out the destiny that you came here for, as simple or elaborate as that may be. It's always conspiring for you. So when it feels like you're being conspired against, you want to trust in your niggle. Right. That's when you don't get the synchronicities. That's when things aren't lining up because they're trying to get you to stop what you're doing and get you to look over here, or stop what you're doing and tune into the sacred yes and that niggle. Right.
Absolutely.
So it really is a beautiful tool that can feel awkward when you're not listening to it, for sure.
Well, and that's the thing, right? It's about how do you tune in to listen to the niggle, right? Because people will say, well, I never hear a niggle. Well, are you being calm? Are you like sitting and listening to it? Do you give your time that space to even know that it's there? Because the niggles will come in like different forms, like an opportunity, a job opportunity, or, a message, or just a conversation that you have with somebody that maybe even just keeps pinging and pinging. Like it just keeps reappearing. Like I love hearing lyrics and songs, or, you scroll and you find something on your Facebook and go, oh yeah, I was just thinking about that. Or, you're shopping and you see something and, oh, wow, that was like 3 times now that's come into my awareness. Oh, well, maybe I should put some concentration into that. Now it's like getting louder and louder. But it's the moments when you're like, nah, that's whatever. That's not a coincidence, or that's Facebook listening
you
to
judge it.
Thoughts, that kind of a thing, right? Like,
what does it feel like to you guys? Like, how would you describe a niggle?
A niggle?
I mean, you're kind of describing it with those little hits, but
Yeah.
do.
For me, niggle is like, it's a really subtle, quiet voice that will come in my head and it will present as an idea. And I'll hear it as my own self. And I'll be like, oh, interesting. Sometimes I won't hear, like I'll hear it, but I won't give energy to it. So I'm just like, whatever. Oftentimes I actually get my niggles, like I have a feeling within myself of something else happening. And once I go, okay, I'm hearing this, the universe will present from a different way the next step in that. So I've had something come up that I've been like, oh God, is this a reality for me? And I'd sit and digest it. And then our lovely Jennifer here, just in random conversation, offered the next level of information to that for me to go, oh, there's something in this. Let me follow it. Mm-hmm. And that gave me the next set of information, right? So that niggle for me, it's usually a voice. It's a quiet little voice that sounds like me. And it sounds like just a random thought I'm having. Oftentimes it's scary. So for me, this niggle I've been having has been over the last year. And I keep ignoring it because I'm like, the thought of that is scary. I don't want to. And I ignore. And finally put on my big girl pants and I looked into it and it wasn't what I thought it was. So that's a niggle for me. Sometimes it's the gut feeling too, right? Like that feeling of like your spidey senses are tingling. Mm-hmm. That can be a niggle as well.
Cool. Yeah, I would agree very much with that niggle description. I think it's pretty
one of them for sure.
Similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I do feel like things present to me kind of outwardly, like in just ideas being presented, that they're not always like an internal, but that when the idea is presented, then all of a sudden I do get like this, like, oh, wait a minute, that right now that idea is really touching me or really made me think about it or really heard it when it's presented that way. Whereas it could have been said a million times, but all of a sudden today I'm tuned in to being able to hear that and being able to respond to it. And that's when it's finally making sense to me as well. And then you think, oh, well, where did that come from? Oh yeah, that is like the universe tapping in, like tap, tap, tap.
But then if it's been presented a few times before, wouldn't those all be the niggles that you were ignoring?
Those are niggles too, yeah. But but right, this is that conversation. How do you like trusting or tapping into your niggle, right? Mm-hmm. And being open. So the more I get these things come in, then the next time I'm a little bit faster at catching it earlier, right? So for mine, they take a little bit longer in some things, where I'm like, oh, now there's like a billboard saying exactly what I needed to see. Like, how long did the universe take to make that billboard and get it out there so that I really, really saw it? But yeah, I mean, it does start with that quiet little voice, but and then gets louder and louder. So yeah,
I've noticed
tiny little niggle.
Yeah, with the quiet voice, if it'll do it for all kinds of things, like little things. It's not just big things in your life. And if you really want to, for our listeners, if you really want to start kind of feeling into this and figuring it out, it's it's the little like, oh, I should do that, or oh, call your mom, or go out back and grab that thing. It's all those little things, and they may seem random or not that important, which is why you often will go, oh, I'll get that later. Oh, I'll do that later. Those are actually little intuitive hits. And if you started following them, even as innocuous as they may seem, little magic things are going to start to happen for you. And what it is, those initial, you can almost look at them as primers. Those little bits are your team going, is she listening? Is she going to do it? Let's test her. Let's give her something. Because when you do hop on, they get excited and more lines up for you. And then it's bigger and then it's more. And then when you get in the really sticky situations, you can use it. Because you trust it. Because that's the card bringing in the trust too, right? Like that's a huge part of it. It's one thing to get the niggles and to ignore them. It's another thing to actually follow through and trust them. Like you said, it's scary, right? To go, oh, I'm going to bring you forward and acknowledge you now sometimes, because it might be asking you to step out of your comfort zone and, pick up the phone and call someone, or go over and talk to that stranger about something, or, show up in a different way on your social media or whatever it is, or create a new business, things that are, life altering.
Yeah. Because what if the niggle isn't something you want to do?
Yeah.
But
But
oftentimes they're not, right?
right? Until you get through them, and then they start becoming things you do want to do, because you start to realize the magic. You start to go, oh, wait, even though it seemed awkward or scary or whatever, when I followed it, great things happened.
Yeah.
And you start to train yourself and get out of that I'm scared of fear and into, well, here we go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's so true.
And you get into that place of creation, which is why if you start with the small stuff, you start to train yourself out of that fear-based thinking, right? Because it's little things that don't matter anyway. It's a great place to start.
Yeah, so true. The niggles.
No niggles, eh?
I had a case of the niggles.
I actually, when I started, I would say like very first, like consciously using my intuition and seeing what that was about. I don't remember who got me to do it or where I came up with this idea or why I started doing it, but it was years ago. And I didn't use it all the time, but I would do these 3 breaths. And so I would take 3 breaths. And while I was taking the 3 breaths, I would ask myself a yes or no question. So whatever I was facing in my life, I would reduce it to a yes or no question. So somebody's got to think about that for a second, right? Because I believed I could only get a yes or no at the time. And I would reduce it to a yes or no question that felt right. And then I would take 3 breaths. And while I was taking the 3 breaths, each breath I would re-ask the question. So I'd say it 3 times essentially in my head and take the 3 breaths. And the whole time I was concentrating the energy into my gut. I felt like that's where my intuition was, in my intestines, right? Gut knowing, right? Everyone's heard that.
Feeling, yeah.
And so I was like, okay, it's in my guts. My guts are going to tell me shit. I wish I could remember how I came up with this idea, but anyway.
Literally shit. Yeah.
Right? And so I would do the yes or no. I would take the 3 breaths. And at the end of the 3 breaths and asking that, I would see or hear the word yes or no in my intestine.
Cool.
And I did it. Whatever it was, every time, if I did that, I would follow the yes or no. And it started to teach me that it was a cool little party trick that I kept all to myself. I never used to tell anyone about it.
That's amazing. And now that you've practiced it so much, do you find that the answers are always there and it's just a quick...
I don't do that. I don't have to breathe. I don't do that jazz.
You're so aware of that feeling of a yes and the feeling of a no now that you can just ask them like, I'm feeling, oh yeah, no, okay, good. Cool.
Well, now it's developed past yes or no. I mean, now it's, I mean, there is the yes and no's too, but it's intuitive conversations more now than simple words. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you got to start somewhere, right? Little things. Like we said in, I can't remember what we're talking on, if it was a podcast or one of our Facebook lives. Join our Facebook group, people. It's a good one.
Yeah.
And you were talking about that. What did you say? Where were we going with that? Just fell out of my brain. What's in my field? It's over here now, Jen. Take it back. What did you just say? Working our mental muscle. We were talking about working the mental muscle, right? So like all the gifts, people call them gifts, right? Hearing, seeing, knowing, feeling, whatever, being able to do mediumship, being able to do whatever. I mean, yeah, there's some people that are just turned on with these abilities and they do them, but we all have the ability to do them. Right? So just like Patricia's saying with practicing her yes and her no, and now she's just so good and she knows that she doesn't have to go into such depth. I mean, it's because you've worked that muscle, right? And that's same with our psychic abilities. Like we have to work those muscles. And then eventually that niggling just becomes that intuitive hit that you act on it right away. You don't question it, right? I think we've been so programmed to question everything. And it's almost to a detriment for us. Some stuff, question, but a lot of it, no. You should just know. That should be innate within you.
And I think it goes, like we were talking, trust your niggle. So what, like trust, put that trust into it, that it's not going to lead you astray.
Yeah.
And practice that. So practice it with easy things. So trust your niggle on the easy things and trust that it's the right path. So, start with your food or something simple that, really, if at the end of the day, it doesn't matter one way or the another if you did, but I mean, think about how wondrous it can be when in trusting that you learn that this is actually working, right? Because it starts with that little bit of faith and trust that it's actually going to work and benefit you.
Yeah.
And even the gurus and the big people that, you know, you admire and look up to, and maybe they're super great, you know, magical beings, maybe they're great life coaches, maybe they're making $1 million, whatever it is you look up to them for, they still have to practice that. And I'll bring my guy, Tony Robbins, into it, right? You guys know I like him. I'm taking his life coaching, and he every day jumps into like a tank of super fucking cold water.
Yeah, lots of people do that.
Because not just for the health benefit but he started doing it because he is training his brain that he doesn't stop at fear. He doesn't stop just because he doesn't want to. He doesn't stop because he doesn't question, and he trains his brain to stop questioning him and second guessing him. And that's how he trained himself out of second guessing. And so that's what he does every day. Even now, even that he's this big guy who has this big, you know, life coaching business, and he encourages people all the time, he still does the foundational work on his confidence. Amazing. So everybody, you know, be inspired to do that on the daily and tap into that. There's nothing wrong with the fact that you're afraid. There's nothing wrong with the fact that it takes practice. There's nothing wrong with the fact that it wasn't just there for you like this and you have to train it. That's the beauty. That's the fun. That's the shit and giggles of our life, right? Is training that and getting into that place of trusting and confidence. And so give yourself the permission to play and see what happens. What would happen if you turned on your intuition 100% and trusted all those niggles? Just like the movie Yes Man, right? I think I brought that in another podcast too, which is maybe I've seen like once fucking years ago. I don't even know, but there's some fun in it, right? There's like, just start giving yourself the yeses, the permission, the go for it, the I'm scared and I'm gonna do it anyway type, you know, thing. And don't buy into the fear. Don't buy into maybe I shouldn't because it's harder, it's scarier, it's whatever. Maybe that just means you should.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fear will be the blocker, right? It will keep you playing small and it'll keep you stuck in your current situation.
And overwhelm.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, even our mentor that 3 of us just finished working with and are continuing to in other ways. But I mean, one thing she taught us with this was learning how to trust your yes. Like Jennifer was saying with the food. I mean, have an apple and an orange and be like, hey, body, what do you want to eat? Trust the niggle. Oh, you need the orange. Okay, yeah, you probably do. Maybe you need a shot of vitamin C. Maybe you're coming down with something. Maybe there's something in there. It can be that small and simple. So listen to that. Try it with that. Start with that and then go from there. And it's interesting to see how your day goes, right? How it turns when you start listening to those little hits.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The niggle is good.
The
niggle.
Yeah, it's the tune in though, right? Because I was just thinking about times where I've tuned into my intuition where I didn't necessarily think that I was tuning in. And some of the most interesting times have been, and this sounds kind of weird, but when I'm fishing.
Oh.
Yeah, because I will do this kind of little space out when I'm fishing and start just kind of going into whatever. And the times where I've caught the most fish have been the times where I have been like, I just manifested those fish to come, but I had no attachment to the outcome. Like I was in a space where I was just like, put out my want and was ready to just, you know, accept whatever happened. And I would be like reeling the fish in. But honestly, I was like out doing other things with my brain at the time and not just constantly going, when's that fish going to come? When's that fish? Coming? It's getting hot. When's that fish coming? Because like, I really want that fish right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that sounds kind of interesting, but I feel like that just coming into my brain is just kind of the best example of just being able to just get into that space.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit on something actually really, really profound and important in that too, not being attached to the outcome. So don't look at the niggle and go, oh my God, what does this mean? And then you're trying to look at the forward timeline of that and where that's going to go. Just come back to the moment. Okay, what is this showing me? Okay, I'm going to lean into that. Okay, I'm going to do that. And I mean, you're probably going to find that it's going to be the best case scenario, even if something is a little bit, you know, scary or unsure or whatever. Like, don't play into that vibration of things. I mean, notice it. Okay, oh, wow, weird. I'm experiencing fear around this. Well, that's curious. What's it about? And then lean in further. And yeah, don't look at the outcome because you have no effing clue what's going to happen, no matter how intuitive, insightful, or psychic you are, right? Like you won't know. You just have to lean in. And that's the whole thing, is trusting that little piece. I love that. Yeah. Don't be attached to the outcome. It's probably not what you're fearing.
Yeah. Never is.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is the fear part of that, or the potential you could see in that negative way, would probably come about from not following the niggle. You know what I mean? So I'll tell you the prime example, like where I'm coming from on this. So I have had symptoms that have presented for a long time, and I'm not going to get into detail of them, but recently came to light over the last year. I keep hearing MS, and I'm like, oh my God, that's fucking terrifying. I don't want to have MS. So I never leaned into researching it, what caused it, what they know of it. I just didn't want to know. And I didn't trust a niggle. And then Jennifer said, did you know that they're starting to link MS to the Epstein-Barr virus? Now, anybody who's had Epstein-Barr virus knows that that is mono. I've had mono. I think most people have had mono. And actually, there's a lot of information starting to come out about this virus and what it does. And the virus itself can eventually, if it gets to the later stage of infection within your body, can absolutely turn into MS. So I sat in this fear space of, oh my God, I could have MS. And I'm thinking of all the forward thinking. What if I can't walk? What if I can't eat? What if I'm confined to a wheelchair? What if I can't take care of my family? What if? And instead, the niggle told me, just look into the Epstein-Barr virus. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to lean into that one. I'm not going to worry about the outcome of where this is going. I'm just going to get myself informed. And so I sat and I got informed, and I went, holy shit, I have Epstein-Barr virus still in my system that needs to be eradicated. And now I'm pumped up and I'm excited and I'm looking forward going, I can make some changes. I can get control of my health. I can get rid of these symptoms. And it doesn't have to be the forward timeline of the fear that I was thinking, because I chose to lean into the niggle of looking into the Epstein-Barr virus instead of sitting here in the fear of the MS. Because had I sat in this fear, I wouldn't have cleared the virus. The virus eventually would have manifested into that MS. And I wholeheartedly believe that. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean. The forward timeline of your fear can absolutely happen if you don't listen to the niggle and take control now. If I didn't make time for my wellness, I would be forced to make time for illness. Mm-hmm. I don't have time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that, right?
No, exactly.
So you that shit out. Patricia, another one for you that I think is kind of a positive. I mean, us saying about you offering out a course option to our teachers, right? Mm-hmm. And there was such a fear in that. And you're like, I don't know. And then you're like, you know what? It feels good. I'm going to trust. I'm going to lean in. And now you've got really magical things coming about for you.
Right? Oh, the niggles. Like if I could
magical thing.
Line up the amount of niggles that I've trusted this year to pan out into what I wanted them to be. Yeah, man. In fact, I'd have a long list here. We'd be here for a while.
Enough niggles to make you giggle.
Yeah. And it really is. And it's fun. And I hope that with this conversation, we are inspiring people to start to question, well, am I getting niggles? And what does that feel like? And can I use it to my, advantage? Because you really can.
Mm-hmm. Be curious.
I think it goes to the question, like, am I psychic? Are you getting these little things? Wait, did you listen? Because you are. You just have to give it a minute and hear it.
Yeah.
Right. So anyone out there questioning, anyone who's found us are on the same path that we are. Right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
That's how you got here. So don't tell yourself you're not. You are. Because that's how you found us.
Yeah.
But it's about those little steps. So yeah, think about it. Take this information, sit down and start to think, okay, have I followed it? What happened when I did follow it? What happened when I didn't follow it? Mm-hmm. And then think back to all of those times and start adding up which worked out, which didn't work out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I mean, for a niggle, for me, it brought me to the course that brought me to you guys.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was a niggle is the only reason I took that course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I resisted a little bit at first. I was like, nah, maybe not. No. And then it niggled me for a couple days. And I was like, oh my God, deadline.
Same. Yeah, I was actually going to join the first round, and then I got the niggle to just wait, and I was like, but I really want to do it, and I was like, just wait.
That actually happened to me as well.
Yeah, so we must have all niggled ourselves out of the first one to get to the second one. Yeah.
I listened.
Isn't that
the right thing to do?
Yeah, because I was going to do the first one too, and then I don't know, just didn't work out for me.
Yeah. Wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. I had the niggle to wait. Exactly. I had the niggle.
Yeah, because the timing for the course that we did take was perfect.
Yeah, it was for everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, moral of the story, everybody, if you've got the niggle, to send this to a friend who needs to know about a niggle. Please share. We are on Instagram now. We just got our page up and running. Please come check it out. It's hard to human. We also have our Facebook page at It's Hard to Human on Facebook, or it's hard to human at gmail.com. You can reach us there if you have ideas that you want to talk about, the niggles, the jiggles, the wiggles, or any kind of happy stuff. Mm-hmm. Or not so happy. We know it's hard to human, but we're trying to make it easier by bringing a little bit of magic.
Yeah, all these DIY energetic hygiene. It's the real deal, man. It'll change your freaking life. And so in the description of this video, of course, I will link each of our session info in case you want to connect with one of us one-to-one in a session and get that niggle really rocking, or make life easier to human in whatever way you need. We're here for you.
Happy niggle following.
Happy niggle following, and we will see you cats next week, and we will actually see you in a couple of days live in our Facebook group. Link for that will also be in description, where we're going to pull cards for you and answer your niggling questions.
Oh, I love it.
Good one.
All right. Ciao for now, kitties.
Bye.